When I was a little boy, I used to go over to my neighbors. They were a Protestant family, a Methodist family, and they were my best friends. And they were down the alley across the street. We used to play, do all kinds of things, but we used to climb the apricot tree. One was because we liked apricots. I even ate them green. They were wonderful. But in addition to that, there was something about climbing the tree and getting off the ground and being above others and seeing people, and some of them couldn't see us in the tree. We always went there. We always had a ball until the mother would come out and say, "Get out of that tree! Get down out of that tree!" I don't know what her problem was. I don't know why she didn't want us up there. Maybe she was afraid we'd fall. But that was a special place for us. So I've always had this special liking for this Zacchaeus story. I guess I could connect with it. If I were doing the film of Zacchaeus, this would be so much fun to direct. And I especially like the scene. Now, it starts by saying that Jesus, he wasn't going to go to this town and stay there. He just happened to be passing through. Actually, there's a lot of stories where Jesus is passing through this place or that place to get somewhere else. But often, too, something would happen. He'd have an encounter, or somebody would have an encounter with him, and he would pause. So here he is, going from one place to another, passing through this town, and the townspeople heard he was coming. He obviously was famous and a great healer, a great preacher, somebody who connected them with God in wonderful ways. Now, Zacchaeus, it says he was a tax collector, which meant he collected taxes for Rome. He was protected by their army. And it said that he was a chief tax collector, which means he was over other tax collectors. All of the tax collectors skimmed off the top. If she owed $100, then the tax collector would say, "Well, you owe $115. $115? You better pay up the armies behind me." So the tax collector would skim that $15 plus get paid by Rome, and they got rich. But the chief tax collector probably could skim off the tax collectors too. It was a kind of a corrupt and ugly business. They were considered sinners and unclean. They weren't welcome to most parties, okay? They were scum. So here they are. The people are out there because they hear that Jesus is passing through town. So I'm the director. I'm saying, "Okay, Zacchaeus is in the back. Don't let him through. Get your elbows up. Lock arms. Keep him back there." Somebody shout back to him, "Well, go climb a tree. Don't let him in." So I'm filming this. It's all working very beautifully. So Zacchaeus runs down the road, sees a sycamore tree, climbs up the tree, and Jesus happens to be walking by around that time, and everyone's cheering him and saying hello, and he's noticing them, and he sees Zacchaeus up at the tree, and he gets there and he says, "Zacchaeus, come down right now. I want to stay at your home today." "Okay, crowd, get busy." "Oh my God, I can't believe it. OMG, 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 he's going to the house of a sinner." And then Zacchaeus speaks. And he says, "Today, Lord, I give half of all my possessions to the poor, and anyone I've cheated or extorted, I'm going to pay him back 4 times. And Jesus says, today, salvation has come to this house. And he tells the people who were murmuring, "I've come to save what was lost. Look what just happened. Miraculous." That's the story. But why did he go up in the tree? Obviously, he was curious. He said he just wanted to see Jesus. But I suspect there was something more. That's the superficial. That's on the surface. Oh, I want to see. But why do people want to see things, hear things? I think it's because on a deeper level, people often have what I would call a longing in their heart. They're longing to understand, to see things and have things opened up to them. So there's this song. I really like this song. It's in the books here. I use it on my retreat all the time. And it's called "There Is a Longing." I want to read to you the words of the song. I'm going to read the refrain at the beginning and at the end, but it repeats constantly, but I'm not going to repeat it here. Okay? Here's how it goes. "There is a longing in our hearts, O Lord, for you to reveal yourself to us. There is a longing in our hearts for love we only find in you, our God. For justice, for freedom, for mercy, hear our prayer. In sorrow, in grief, be near, hear our prayer. There is a longing in our hearts," I won't read it again, he says, "for wisdom, for courage, for comfort, hear our prayer. In weakness, in fear, be near, hear our prayer. Our prayer for healing, for wholeness, for new life, hear our prayer. In sickness, in death, be near, hear our prayer, O God. Lord, save us. Take pity, light in our darkness. We call you, we wait, be near, hear our prayer. There is a longing in our hearts, O Lord, for you to reveal yourself to us. There is a longing in our hearts for love we only find in you, our God. Now, I believe this is true. I think all people have longings in their heart. And I think they long for all kinds of things that are important, but many times longings get drowned out. I think we are particularly susceptible to it as perhaps Zacchaeus was, because I'll tell you one of the things that drown out longings is money. Money and possessions, power. We want them, and we think, in illusion, that they will satisfy us and take care of our needs. And they do relatively. If I had $1 billion, but I had an aneurysm and died today, what good is the $1 billion? Hello, maybe get a prettier casket. But money doesn't save you, and it doesn't take away those longings, but sometimes it numbs them. It covers them up, and then we don't feel them or don't desire them anymore. But I'll tell you, there's people that have great longing. Go to Syria right now. Talk to the Kurds right now. Go to Culiacan, where people were killing because they arrested the son of El Chapo, and they had to let him out. Go to the Philippines. Go to the biggest city there and see what it's like in the poorest areas in the Philippines. Go to South Central. Go to people who just heard they have cancer or who are struck with diabetes and just had a leg removed. Talk to people who are just going through a divorce. People whose kid just went to jail, whose kid was just killed. There's a lot of longing in people's lives. Pain, suffering, need, and desire. The tree that Zacchaeus went up is a tree, but it's also a symbol. The tree is like a door that you go through, looking for something to satisfy the deepest longings. That's why we come through these doors of the church. I mean, think about it. We're out there in the world, and we come into this place that we call a sacred space. It's filled with things that we consider holy or invite us to consider the holy. So we come to hear sacred words. We come to hear to have a sacred meal. We sing sacred songs. We have sacred silence. We're in the presence of a sacred holy people that we call our brothers and sisters in faith, brothers and sisters in Christ. And we seek just for this hour just to make contact, to climb a tree, to go through a door, to somehow touch God and more importantly, maybe to let God touch us. Right now, seated among us are the first-year confirmation. And they're going to go and consider a lesson today on the Spirit and the gifts of the Spirit. I propose to you that what happened to Zacchaeus was that the Spirit got into him and moved him. I bet you he didn't get up at 6 o'clock that morning and say, I think I'll go climb a tree. He heard Jesus was coming, and his spirit was seized by the Spirit. Whether he recognized it or not, and he had something he had to do. He had to go climb a tree. For God's sake, I want to see this man passing by. And he thought, as he climbed that tree, he was going to see Jesus, which he did. But much more importantly was that Jesus saw him. The last thing in his mind, I'll bet you, was, I think Jesus is going to come over to my house for dinner tonight. He was the most despised man in town. He probably had given up longing for acceptance in this place. It's just my lot to be rich and have a whole bunch of enemies. But Jesus comes along. He got to see him, but he got to have Jesus see him. And then Jesus did the inviting. Come down from that tree. I want to stay at your house. So I want to tell you, confirmation one, go climb a tree, for God's sake. Get up in a tree and take a look at the world. Get in touch with your longings. Do you long for anything, teenagers? I'll bet you do. I'll bet some of you long for the day that you walk on school and nobody's bullying you anymore. I bet you long for the day that people stop asking you to take drugs. I bet you long for the day that you go in and a friend treats you well instead of giving you the cold shoulder and walking away. I bet you long for the day that you go through classes and feel that you're finally kind of in control of what you're learning and you're getting it. I bet you long for the day for a better relationship with your parents because, well, teenage years are teenage years and attitude. I bet you long for a whole bunch of things. I bet you long to know God more and have God know you in a way that brings you peace. We all want it. Teenage years are just tough years. But that's why we come here. We come here to climb a tree. We come here to go through a door. We come here to make contact with Christ. But the best part is when we come here, if Christ makes contact with us.